So Kevin, we've been doing like a handful of these just really informal, Zoom meetings, chats, just to hear about how things are going and to take good ideas from institutions across the country and share them with others. So, I mean, you were just sharing with us how you're planning to do some virtual salons or small group Zoom meetings with some of your principal gift prospects and bring people together that previously, just haven't met due to geographical or age or, all the other reasons they haven't come together. So, what do you think about there, and how are you all moving forward at Mizzou?
Yeah, I think we just see a lot of potential and power in people who are passionate about similar things, talking if they haven't met. And, there's really an opportunity now with technology and with people probably having more time on their schedules if they're sheltering in place to be part of those conversations. And, I think their enthusiasm for what they're supporting can be really infectious when they're talking to each other. And so pulling those groups together of 4 to 6 couples, we're trying to sprinkle in a few people that we're maybe less involved with, but we think would be excited about the same areas of campus, so they can hear from others about why they've been passionate about supporting what they've supported. So kicking those off, and hope to have our system president and interim chancellor give a little overview with the state of the university and how we're dealing with COVID, and then certainly have the academic leaders relevant for the different areas of campus to help facilitate those conversations.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be, like really valuable for them. You said you're, building it around either, giving interest, like the same areas they're supporting, or the college they graduated from, and just bringing those folks together, and that's great for them on a networking standpoint.
And I think we also see an opportunity to harness knowledge from some of our donors too. I mean, we have a lot of people with a lot of economic and business experience, and engaging them in a conversation and advising us on how they see the economy coming out of this, and their view on how higher ed is going to need to adapt for the long haul with this. Will be a powerful conversation for us to garner advice from them on too.
No, that's huge. I mean, tapping into that expertise, and doing it in a way that, it's free advice.
Yep.
From Mizzou, from people who are really smart and successful and able to contribute in those ways. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you see? I mean, so your situation is y'all are finishing a really successful capital campaign, wrapping that up, I think June 30th, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And then, moving into fiscal year 21, non-campaign year, we're in an uncertain environment, at best. Like, what does that mean for you in terms of like guiding your team and giving them metrics, and like, how are you adjusting strategy going forward?
Yeah, I think we're certainly going to be focused on stewardship, and that would probably be true, of any year ending a campaign, but especially true with uncertainty on when we'll be able to, be back in front of donors. Showing them the impact of their giving, thanking them for their giving is going to be important, and there's a lot of ways we can do that remotely. And I think, stewardship builds into cultivation for the next donor cycle or campaign also. And I even see, certainly the salons we talked about is, a stewardship in many regards, but also could be used as an evaluation tool for new prospects too. I mean, it's less intrusive to be asked to be part of a small group if you're don't have a close relationship with the institution than it is to have a one-on-one conversation with the fundraisers. So we see this as a means to do some evaluation work also. Certainly from a metrics standpoint, I think we've made some changes that a lot of institutions have made. We've added a virtual visit component to our metrics, and are really classifying that the same as we would an in-person visit, and that's something that I think we see as probably a long-term change for us, and probably a change in the industry also. I think we're thinking of keeping a lot of our numbers of the metrics the same, but certainly the shift toward, more of those visits focused on stewardship and focusing on conversations that are not going to be awkward because they're conversations with donors that you already have an existing relationship with on the one-on-one level. Is kind of how I'm trying to guide our team.
Yeah, so does that mean putting a quick pause on qualification, or is it figuring out different ways to maybe qualify?
Yeah, I think it's really different ways. And, I think the group qualification is going to be an easier way to qualify than, and there may be some opportunities for some one-on-one cultivation, but, it's a little bit harder to talk to somebody you've never met before on Zoom or on the phone than if you get them engaged in a group conversation. And then there's an opportunity for a one-on-one follow-up after the group meeting is how I think we're trying to approach that.
No, I like that a lot. I mean, it's providing an easier engagement point,
Yep.
for those folks versus maybe taking that meeting first time. And yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And I think, there's a situation where people are at home too, and they're eager for content to some, extent. I mean, we've all probably binge watched something on Netflix over the last 2 months, and, this could be a different entertainment outlet for people too, who are looking for, some stimulation intellectually.
Yeah, I wouldn't call me binging Tiger King intellectual stimulation. So I'm like desperately looking for those outlets. So that sounds really cool. You mentioned one thing before we started recording that I thought was just kind of neat reflection, and then it ties into virtual visits. But you said, in your 15 years as a gift officer, this is probably the longest you've ever been without jumping on a plane. Virtual visits or metric you added now, like how much of that is, if you percentage wise, how much of that existed before COVID, and then what do you see, for yourself or your team percentage wise going forward?
Yeah, we didn't really have virtual visits at all pre-COVID, and we certainly treated phone calls very differently than we did in-person visits. I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot more blending and of those things and valuing them equally. I hope we'll get back to a point where we can be face-to-face again with people, because I do think there's, a unique opportunity when you're physically face-to-face with the donor. But I see the virtual visit and Zoom meetings as being a pretty permanent shift, and, perhaps can create some efficiencies for us in this industry too. I mean, if you have had some in-person meetings with the donor, you can really expedite your follow-up conversations if you're not depending on getting in front of them face-to-face, and you can hop on a quick 15 or 20-minute Zoom to talk through some issues. So, I think it's going to be, I don't know now I have a good idea percentage-wise on what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be a permanent part of our work going forward.
No, as somebody who works remotely, I really love that. Hear that and support that. And, it also makes your work easy. I mean, like, yes, it has to be around like what the donor is most comfortable with, but it's way easier to bring like the dean or the provost or even the president to a Zoom call than it is to get on a plane, fly halfway across the country, and, have a meeting and then fly all the way back and take, 1-2 days to do it. So.
Yeah. And even, we had our last board meeting of our campaign in April. And, it was amazing to see how many of our donors had embraced the technology at that point too. And people I, never would have thought would have been on a Zoom video call. I guess that's the great opportunity of this, crisis we're unfortunately in, is it's caused people to adapt quickly, which, societal change happens with these kind of cataclysmic events. And I think that's certainly something we're going to see be true of this one.
Yeah, we've all gotten on Zoom. I see a lot of people baking sourdough loaves. I don't know if
we have some in my fridge.
Social media feed. Yeah, there you go. And so yeah, things have changed. If you're giving advice to one of your colleagues in another institution, what's the one thing they should be focused on right now?
Yeah, I would just say, be authentic with your conversations with donors. I mean, you know what their particular situation is with this. I mean, they may have family impacted or other considerations, and don't be inauthentic. I mean, if they're going to read right through that, and just reach out with empathy in mind and check in on people, and let the conversation flow from there. But I do think, I guess I'm focused on contact at this point, because I think people appreciate being checked in on if you have a relationship with them. And in times like this, it may be a little bit harder to force some ask conversations, but if you invest time in the relationship now, when people have time available, that's going to pay off long term.
Yes, love it. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate the chat, and stay safe.